Right, everybody, welcome this afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mandy Haig. I'm the International Director at the Greater Birmingham Transatlantic Chamber of Commerce, which is the Midlands chapter of the British American Business Network. So thanks ever so much for joining us this afternoon. This is the second in a series of chapter chat events where previously we have visited Chicago, and today we are going over to the fantastic state of Florida, and we are joined by our friends over in Miami this afternoon, and we've got a great event planned for you. So just want to share with you here the webinar agenda, just so you can see what we're planning for you today. We're going to record the event, so you'll be able to play it back. And hopefully you're going to get lots of fantastic information about how to trade with the state of South Florida. So I'm going to hand over very shortly to James Tate. And then James is going to take us through a variety of speakers that we have got for you today with some excellent case studies. And then we're going to end the session with a very quick question and answer session for you, and we'll close at 5 p.m. GMT. So with that, I'm going to hand over to James Tate. James is the Vice President of the Greater Birmingham Transatlantic Chamber of Commerce. So over to you, James.
Thank you very much, Mandy, and thank you all very much for all joining, and good afternoon or good morning, wherever you're dialing in from. So as Mandy says, I'm James Tate. I'm Vice President of the Transatlantic Chamber, and I am speaking from Birmingham, UK. We've got a great lineup, as Mandy has said. I will hand over to who I understand is your newly appointed President, Carlos, shortly. But before I do, just running through some of the speakers that we've got. We've got Dan and Andy coming up after Carlos. Got Yassine, Don, Gavin and Lewis before we get into questions and answers at the end. I was supposed to be in Florida myself this time, well, over the summer last year, but sadly wasn't able to do so. So I very much hope that Boris Johnson's roadmap out of COVID bears fruit and that I can come and see you all later in the year. But without any further ado, I'll hand over now to Carlos as your president.
Hi, yeah, thanks, James, and thanks for all the staff at the Greater Birmingham Transatlantic Chambers of Commerce. I think this event is great, and I think everybody's interested in Florida. I have a few slides for everyone. I'm going to make a brief introduction to the Babc in South Florida. So here we go. So I'm currently the president. I just stepped in. Of the Babc. Tansy Jeffries is our immediate past president. I think some of you might have interacted with her. Our organization was founded in 1985, and we are here based in Miami. We do cover South Florida and Florida as a whole, but we take into account the other organizations that are in other regions, so we cross-collaborate, when needed outside the South Florida region. The Babc is a not-for-profit business organization. Our mission is to provide networking, education, and business development opportunities, and to build cultural ties between the United Kingdom, South Florida, and the extended Latin America and Caribbean business communities. So this extension to Latin America and Caribbean makes total sense. It was something that we tweaked our mission, in the recent years, because there's a big growing community of people in that region that's interested in the UK. So we've been interacting with a few individuals, for example, that are expanding businesses from Latin America to South Florida and from South Florida to the United Kingdom. So I think this attends, some of those goals of our members, and it helps us interact more efficiently with the local community. We collaborate closely to the Miami office of Her Majesty's Consul General and the Department of Trade, and the Consul General is on our board. So we have a very close and and good and fruitful relationship, with the UK, with the UK government, which helps us expand our goals. So the British American Business Council is the largest transatlantic business network. It consists of 22 chapters, over 2,000 member companies based in major centers throughout North America and the United Kingdom. So we have, some of our colleagues and other BBC chapters, in the US, like, in Chicago, and other regions. Its membership includes, many of the largest multinational companies. Some of them are, members of the South Florida chapter, as well as hundreds of middle market and smaller companies. And, as you all know, Florida is very important because it's, it's a very important trade partner, to the UK. So we've been gaining a lot of attention from, big multinational companies, especially now with, the economy, in Florida growing, and, some companies actually relocating or moving their staff here. So we've seen an uptick in membership requests from larger companies and also smaller ones because of the recent changes, in the world due to COVID, especially, in the US. A lot of companies are moving from New York and California to either Florida or to Texas. Our members consist of, important, mainly businesses, right? We do have a social, membership, but that's usually, membership that we open to certain individuals that are starting their business and they're not at the right point to actually join, as a business member. But our focus is to have less members and really work and collaborate and create, a very close, community and a cross collaboration environment for the companies. We're obviously growing our membership, but we want to, provide, an environment where companies can thrive and they can understand, business and also cross collaborate with the UK. So we have members like, British Airways, which is a, trustee member, and also HSBC, RSM, Gray Robinson, and a couple of others. Our members have a couple of benefits. The member dues, range from $350 to $5,000, and depending on the level that people are joined, they can have different benefits like company logos, promotion, opportunity to brand and partner in our events, and obviously participate in our various committees, and also participate on the board of directors, and also have access complimentary to our events. So it is an environment, as I said, which we seek cross collaboration. It's a bit different from a regular chamber because we do foster, because it's a business council, we do try and foster business between people. So I'm regularly involved in helping businesses, and I've interacted recently with Yasin from EF to try and help people start their company, open an entity, find their right distribution partners. So we view ourselves as more actively playing that role instead of just doing networking events, actually helping and creating the environment for cross collaboration between our members and peers. We have a couple of events coming up. We do regular business seminar series. We also are involved with the European Chamber business events, which is Spain, France, Ireland, Germany, and Italy here locally. So, they get to participate in some of our events and we in theirs. And we also do a great networker between these chambers. We have our signature events, which are the regular, the AGM and the New Year Networker, which happened recently. We also do a good event for the Her Majesty's Queen's birthday, and also the Christmas party, which is a regular. This year we've launched a new series called Tea Time Talk series. We've had 2 great events, and counting. This event it works like a podcast. So it's a live event, but people can get to watch it, on their phone, or, if they're, jogging, or, going to the gym. But we interview some of our members, their businesses, and there's always, a topic of interest that has to do with, the current situation, both, economic and also from a business, perspective. And we intend to invite, notable guests too, that are important people and entrepreneurs, to also speak to our business, and BBC network. Just a few highlights so people can just have an example of the type of events that we've had in the past, like last year. So yeah, we do have the AGM and the network are also always in the beginning of the year. We've had events about visas. Yeah, we've had we had a great event with the Indian Chamber of South Florida, the European Networker, keep calm, and carry on. Like there was a happy hour, like a virtual happy hour, like given that most of the people were at their homes, weren't able to leave, so we did a kind of very British inspired happy hour. We do events related to diversity, inclusion, wine tastings. Yeah, we have notable business people to speak. In one case, we had the Florida State Senator to come and speak about Florida, and the real estate market and and the business environment from his perspective. We've had events with the Miami-Dade International Trade, and the great event that was to collaborate Veterans Day, where we had both US and UK military, and also the Consul General attended. That's it from me. So it's a brief presentation, I know, but I'm happy to answer any question either now or towards the end, which I think is better. But here's the link. I'll be happy also to send this afterwards. And it's great to be here. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Carlos. That's great. Thank you for your time there. We're up against it with the clock. We've got a lot of speakers on, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dan and Andy at Curium, and over to you.
Thank you, James. Hello, everyone. My name's Andy Dawson. I'm one of the founders at Curium over here in Birmingham, in the UK, and we set up in 2008. But the purpose of today is just to share a little bit about our story on both sides of the Atlantic. So we started out first, but Dan, do you want to kind of tell us how we started over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Curium started in 2008, and we launched the first US office here in Florida in 2016. Very briefly, we are a change management sort of boutique consulting business that works with global clients, helping with business transformation and performance improvement. So 2016 is when we launched here against the backdrop of Brexit and falling exchange rates. So that was fun, losing loads of money before we'd even had day one. And also running into the Trump campaign at the same time, and also hurricane season. But I think the key reason for mentioning those is there's almost, I'm not convinced there is an ideal time to launch. I think you've got to plan for it, you've got to be committed, and then you've got to back yourself and do it. So it was just the right time to expand for us. We were working with more and more global clients. And I think having the US and the UK operations really made us more attractive as a proposition and better placed to serve some of the growing opportunities. And also you have that diversification of different economic climates, which is also helpful. I think a couple of other things I'd like to mention, Andy, is, people often say, why Florida? I could show you the sunshine outside right now. Is it the beaches, the golf courses? Nothing to do with me rather hopping on a quick flight up to New York for a meeting versus Birmingham New Street and jumping on a train. But Birmingham's great. But there was a number of reasons why we chose Florida in particular, which I think is important to reference today if people are thinking of doing business in Florida. There's no state tax, so it's only one of 5 or 6 states where there is no state tax, which can have a significant impact on the bottom line. Ease of access back to the UK. It's much easier traveling back from East Coast than sort of West Coast. The labor market in Florida, there is some really strong talent here, but you know, the price point of that labor is definitely different to if you're in New York or DC. And a couple of other things that are very similar to Birmingham as well. You know, the business community is very sort of committed and sort of tight-knit across Florida. And also there's a lot of incentive programs. So if you're looking at transitioning to Florida, absolutely use the network and people, you know, who are on calls like this today to find out what is available. We came over on a soft landings program. It gave us reduced office space for the first 12 months, access to a marketing team, and just people who would open doors for us as well. And depending on the size of the business, you know, if you're coming here and creating 100 jobs, there is also some financial incentives as well. So it's not just the weather and Mickey Mouse and everything else that comes with Florida. You know, there's some real good positives.
Love the kind of twang in the accent these days, Dan, as well. You're doing a good job covering up that Bolton lad, aren't you?
Yeah, as you can tell, originally from Boston.
Yeah. So we've been working together, what, 5 years now with both businesses and building customers together. So where do you think we've got to, Dan? How would you summarise where we are today?
Yeah, I think where we've got to so far, and you know, some of the things that are interesting, I think one thing we've learned is Florida's great to be a base, but depending on the type of product or industry you're in, you're not just limited to doing business in Florida. You know, obviously, you know, it's almost like doing business with 50 mini countries when you launch in the US. And it's been interesting to see which are moving quicker now and coming out of COVID. But Florida's a great base again, and it's equipped us and enabled us to grow within a fairly cost-safe environment in this state, but have access to the rest of the US marketplace. You know, within 4 or 5 years of being here as a change management consulting business, you know, been super privileged to really build up some great client relationships, you know, not just in the state of Florida, but also outside of that, working with companies like Morgan Stanley, through to NASA and through to the CIA. You know, we've also been able to grow the team here out of Florida, like I said, because of that access to the labor market. And I think it was Carlos who touched on it. You started to see post-pandemic, how is that mixing up the US, you know, sort of geographically and the flight out of the West Coast a lot now as people are working more remotely, and the number of organizations that are attracted by Florida are moving here as well. So you can just see how the local economy is sort of expanding here. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see sort of post-pandemic, but so far our journey over the past 4 or 5 years, you know, it's all been about relationships, partnerships, and that's really opened up some phenomenal doors for us, which I'm very, very grateful for. And some great friends I can see on here, even, you know, people like Tansy and people who we've known for a while now. So
I think one of my reflections is, you know, 12 months ago when business as usual became doing things like this remotely and via video. Over the course of certainly the last 4 or 5 years, as we've collaborated together, we've got used to working almost in this sort of way, haven't we? Because there's an awful lot of collaboration between our various businesses. What do you think's kind of worked well, and any kind of lessons learned for people trying to span both sides of the Atlantic?
Yeah, so I think you got to recognize it's going to be a roller coaster, right? It won't always be easy, but if you put it in, you know, it will obviously be worth it. You know, there's going to be times where there's challenges. There's going to be times even where the UK and the US don't maybe see eye to eye on things, and we have to challenge each other. But that's all part of that growing up and part of that expansion. And I think as long as you keep at the forefront around your purpose and why you're doing this, and you're really clear on what you're heading into together, you'll be able to weather some of those. So I think a lesson learned number one would be, won't always be easy. And even internally, you might have some challenges. But if you've got the right culture and the right trust as a team already, whether you're in the US looking to move to UK or vice versa, that is the absolute bedrock. The obvious investment it's going to take is another part of that. And I think another key learn for us has been around that professional services. You just can't cut corners when it comes to things like international tax advice, immigration advice, and all those types of services as well. So I think that's another learn. But what about for yourself, Andy? I don't know how you found it. You know, has there been anything that's caught you by surprise as we moved out here and I disappeared to the Sunshine State?
I think the thing that's been interesting is how easy it's been to develop joint customers. So for everyone listening, our two largest customers in the UK are two large customers over in the US. And I certainly think, the world in the pandemic, when you have to deliver things remotely, has really helped accelerate that and build our confidence, Dan. Staying in contact with things like, account management and making sure projects are kept up to speed is a challenge that can get worked through. And pretty much the start of the day and end of the day, handing that baton over to each other. It's just been, it had the odd hiccup here and there, but it's very, very smooth. So, those things can easily get ironed out. So just conscious, Dan, we've probably got about a minute left. So a final thought from you about what it's been like, because you worked over here for a long time. Now you're over there. How would you describe the two?
Yeah, I think it's been great. I've never looked back. I mean, I still love the UK. I love the flexibility we have. I love the shift patterns that we do. I love waking up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. and knowing you guys are already 5 hours ahead and we're already building something new for a client, and vice versa. When I'm pinging it back over at 11 p.m. at night, I know that you guys are picking it up while I'm sleeping. So I think the flexibility and the working patterns and how we do that for clients and how that's enabled us to expand has been fantastic. And I think a final parting shot will be, I was really fortunate to work with the CFO at NASA last year. And one thing he said really stuck with me, which he said internally at NASA, we had this motto that we'll never get to the moon if we always stay on the ground. You've got to take some risks in life. And quite often people are always focused on the risk and what I'll lose instead of the reward. So, great relationships, use those relationships. And I think that's our time up.
Thanks very much, Dan and Andy. It's a wonderful double act as usual. So thank you for your words on that. That was a really, really great story, and to see going from strength to strength. I'll pass over now without holding anyone up further to Yassine, I think is up next. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much for the team from Curium Solution to have introduced most of what I wanted to say. No, I'm kidding. So it's always nice to have you as an advocate of the state in the Birmingham region and in the UK in general. So my name is Yassine Nahi, and I am the UK and Ireland Director for Enterprise Florida. So Enterprise Florida is the state of Florida economic development organization. I'm based myself in London. And my role is twofold. The first objective I have is to help companies from the state of Florida find business partners in the UK. And you will hear a little bit later from Don about the work we do. And the second one is to help companies from the UK and Ireland set up business operations in the state of Florida. And I really see my role and the role of Enterprise Florida UK's office in general as more a bridge between the UK and Florida. We are you can consider us more as a service provider, as an organization that can provide some added value to your business when you are looking at expanding and finding business partners in Florida. Our role will never be to do business development on your behalf in the state. That's not our role, but we can always facilitate some introductions with people like Curium Solution, with people like British American Business, but also a lot of local organizations and the local counties as well in the state that have also very good connections that can be helpful with research centers, with universities, with different organizations that can be useful to your business. So could you go to the second slide, please? Yeah. So I just wanted to highlight briefly, without repeating what other people have been saying about the state of Florida in terms of why people select Florida and who has selected Florida in general, and the different advantage of the state for businesses. So people have mentioned it before myself, but the talent pool is quite important. So Florida is the third largest state in terms of population, and it has a workforce of 10.1 million. So just the workforce is more than many other states have as a population itself. And for technology companies in particular, more than 300,000 high-tech employees. So you do have this advantage, but also what is interesting with the state, and people before me mentioned it, you have the possibility to ask staff from across the US to relocate to Florida, and people have no specific issue with that, especially in terms of quality of life and the taxes, but I will come to that just after. Then the second is the concentration of corporate headquarters. So of course you have 19 of the Fortune 500 companies that have their corporate headquarters in Florida, but you also have the American companies and also international businesses that have their Latin America headquarters in Florida. And so you have this mix of domestic and international businesses that have decision-making power in the state that is quite interesting for many businesses. Then in terms of technology and research and development ecosystem, it is something I like to highlight a lot, is when Amazon has looked into, I think, 360 communities across Canada and the US, they have shortlisted South Florida as one of the top 20 locations they would like to set up their second headquarters facility. They have not selected Florida, but it is on the shortlist, and it is on the areas where if you are a technology company, you know you can find the talent, the infrastructure, the speed of internet, and also Amazon looked at the future prospects of the state, and it has considered that it has a potential to welcome this facility. So in general, yeah, as many people know, Space Florida is known for the Space Coast. A lot of the space exploration coming from that area of the US in collaboration with many other hubs across the country, of course. But that's where the rockets are launched.
For here, local time. Do we have Don and Gavin up? Do you want to start your piece, and then we can ask Yassine to finish off at the end, if that's all right?
Yeah, great. I'll start.
Okay.
I'm from Florida, then I guess Gavin will talk about the UK. Appreciate this opportunity to talk to everyone, and hopefully I can add some insight into exporting into the UK. My name is Don Rosenthal. I started my business 35 years ago. I don't know if it's freeze-dried ice cream that's not cold. You might have seen it at Kennedy Space Center, science museums. But I'm coming at this from a different angle. I know there's about 30 people on this call. I don't know if you're doing 200,000 annual sales, 5 million, 50 million. But I've been on lots of calls and attended lots of seminars since 1985. And I would get lost when they presenters talk about setting up a foreign office, turning your business from 5 million to 10 million, or you're going to create 50 jobs in Florida. No, some people just want to make an extra 20,000. They just want to start. And that's what's good about Enterprise Florida. Yassine really cares. And there might be an opportunity, like these other presenters talked about, setting up offices, but you got to start somewhere. And the small business owners I've talked to, they don't use consultants, they don't use expensive lawyers, they want payment up front, and they do everything on their own. They invent the product, they pack the products, and they ship the product. They put their last dime into the business, get second mortgages, and everything's personal to them. And that's the angle I'm coming from. So I'm just going to talk about what I found, some simple things about exporting. You get a product, you find a buyer, you arrange payment, ship it to Heathrow, your buyer picks it up, everyone happy. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. But the first thing I found is you need a product. And I assume you're already selling it in the USA. So the buyers you have in the USA or distributors are going to be the same buyers that'll take your product in the UK. But before you start looking, you have to get everything in order. And that's where you need a logistics company, because you got to figure out the customs clearances, the VATs, the taxes. And the most important thing that I found is a delivered price. Are you selling 10 boxes at a time? Are you selling it by the pallet? Are you selling 20 pallets at a time? Because when you talk to somebody, you finally find this buyer. You want to say, hey, it's $2. If you buy 20 pallets, it's $3. If you buy 1 pallet, it's $4. You don't want to have to wait another 4 weeks. So it's important to get all those, the pricing correct. And as far as logistics and regulations, just because your product is turned down, don't take that as a negative. For example, you want to sell socks. Oh, the red dye you can't sell in UK. Well, the next time you make it, change your batch so you use a dye that's acceptable in the UK. Or if you get a harmonized code, they say, hey, you have high duties. Well, make sure they classified it right. So like I said, what I found the most important thing is getting past all the regulations and paperwork, figuring out how you get paid, at what point do you feel you need a lawyer, and the delivered price. And another thing is you got to have a good partner in the UK. A lot of people these days will ship directly to a large account, but a lot of buyers in the UK want you to have a warehouse. And Gavin, who I've known for many years, he has a business in the UK, and he actually has a warehouse, and he's open to importing other products. I know that's not 10 minutes, but that's in a nutshell what a small business owner has been able to accomplish over the years. Gavin, your mic's off.
It keeps on turning off. Hello. Do you want me to take over now, Don?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, Don and I found each other because we were a company with spare warehousing space. We had a perceived need for a product which started out with me selling freeze-dried meals to hiking companies and people doing, I suppose you'd call it prepping these days, but I thought Don's product was going to be perfect. So we jumped through all the regulatory hoops that were put in our way by the EU with dairy content. As Don said, we finally changed some of those products so that the dairy content was below 50%, so we could get it in with less regulation.
Yeah, that's interesting what I was starting to talk about, because at first my ice cream, they say, hey, it's a dairy product. If it's a dairy product, you have to get a veterinarian certificate. You have to list the factory. But if you get a product and you just lower the dairy content a little bit, yeah, it's a whole different set of regulations. So yes, when you are turned down, just use it as okay, what do I got to do to make it work?
Yeah, and so Brexit's going to, provide us with all these different opportunities. Regulations might change in favor of some products, and so at the moment it's a moving feast, and nobody knows what's going to happen between UK and USA trade and free trade agreements, and so it's an exciting time. But to take it on, what Don and I did was we developed, we brought his product in. I thought I could sell it to a certain marketplace, and because we're reasonably flexible here, we decided that we found out it wasn't selling particularly well to the customers in the hiking market and the big multiple box retailers that we thought, like we have Cotswold Outdoors and all these big, your equivalent of REI in the States. And we found out that Don's product sold best in the museums. So we used to sell it to the Science Museum and Dynamic Earth or the Space Centre in Leicester. And so we were able to be reasonably flexible and develop a whole new marketplace for Don, and we have done that for a few other clients from around the world. We tend to focus our business activities generally on the outdoor marketplace, and but we have developed niche products that have sold very well. And as Don said, you might be looking at just selling an extra $20,000, $50,000 in an export market, and then once the product is moving and has landed in this country, you might have a French customer say, well, that's interesting, I've never seen that before, or a German customer. Or we had a nice thing with the TV series Lost. So the Eastern European franchise that was taking Lost on approached us to do some freeze-dried ice cream as a promotion for their TV series, and it was done out of Prague and the Czech Republic, and that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't have been for them seeing the product in the UK. So yeah, we like to offer ourselves up, and I'm more than happy to people to contact me and say, look, I'm thinking about doing this, and what's the feasibility? Because my perception is, and I'm not being rude to anyone here from America, is that their perception is that the UK market is an order of magnitude smaller than America. So you take an American sales figures, you divide it by how many people are in the UK, and you think that we should do that approximate amount of business. But we all have cultural differences, and sometimes we might spend more money on a certain activity. Like in America, I think you spend 15 times more on outdoor activities than we do in the UK, because you've got the space, and you go hunting, you go fishing, and so you buy the ATV, you buy the motorboat, which we wouldn't do here. So
you sell more umbrellas, right?
Well, we need to. Yeah, they don't get blown away in a hurricane though. So all I'm saying is, sometimes it's worthwhile just someone contacting someone like me, who will be fairly honest with you and say, yes, I think there's an opportunity, or maybe not, or perhaps there's somebody else you can talk to and you can develop your business further. So that's all I wanted to do as part of my presentation here, is that, as a first point of contact, sometimes it is worthwhile talking to a business that actually does import and knows the, we import from outside the EU all the time, from America, from Australia. So we know what the loopholes are and the regulations and the difficulties that we all have with shipping from ports and air freighting, and the extra cost that we have with shipping because of your unions in the States with shipping skids or pallets between states. It just seems very expensive, but yeah.
It also helps when you speak to someone like Gavin. If you contact a logistics company first, you know the harmonized code, you know exactly the regulations, you know you're sending, I'm going to sell 10 boxes, or I'm going to sell it by the pallet. You got a delivered price. Now I talk to Gavin and I say, look, the product's $2 and delivered to Heathrow. I can get it there in 8 days. It'll cost you $3. It includes the VAT taxes, includes this. All you got to do is pick it up and bring it to your warehouse. Now, Gavin knows other logistics companies where he might say, maybe I could do better, but at least he knows. It's like somebody calls you up and says, you wanna buy this? How much is it?
Yeah.
At least you'll know. It's going to cost me around $3. Oh, I can't do anything with that. It makes it so much easier.
So yeah, and I think that's the end of our presentation. I think if we've been under 10 minutes, it can give Yasin another opportunity to come back in, maybe.
Yeah, well done. Thank you very much, Don and Gavin. And thank you very much for that presentation and leaving a bit of space there for Yasin to come back on, who I think is back on the line now. So welcome back, Yasin.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. If you could just rearrange the last slide. So I was trying to introduce the fact that Florida was a gateway to Latin America in space. it is definitely a hub for the Latin America region, where a lot of service providers and companies have quite high concentration, in particular in South Florida, but not only. And this is also due to the flight connections and the shipping lines that can easily access this market. And this is linked with the fact that Florida is a trading state. So for any company that has physical goods to move across the world, it has all the infrastructures that are useful for any company selling in different markets. And I like this statistic with 20% of the nation's companies that are exporting are located in Florida. So it tells a lot in terms of the ecosystem for companies willing to move goods across different parts of the world. And the last argument, I always keep it for the end, because I think it is just a sweetener to the actual business community and business potential of the state, is the tax rate. It's one of the lowest in North America. So 0% personal income tax and 5.5 corporate income tax, which means that you can, so you have more at the end of the year to offer to your employees and to your shareholders if you have. And but this is, yeah, I would say a quite big advantage that some companies in particular that have had operations in the Northeast or even in northern part of the US have considered locating part of their activity in the state for that particular reason. And it's also quite attractive for many of the employees you would like to hire, in particular the ones that have higher wages. They will see the difference between the salary paid in another state and the one paid in the States. So I often say we don't offer much financial incentives as such compared to some other states, but we also don't take through the taxes you would pay either locally or at a state level. Perhaps one of the last thing I wanted to say is, so as I said, Florida is the gateway to Latin America. It is an economy on itself. So it's $1 trillion economy. And if it was a country, it would be the 7th largest economy in the world. But it's also integrated within the greater US Southeast. So many companies look at the state, even not for Latin America or for the state of Florida itself, but to cover the southeast of the US, including the neighboring states, which I never pronounce, by the way. And it's a nice hub to cover that region. So for companies that already have operations on the West Coast, on the Northeast, etc., having an additional location in the state could be interesting just in terms of logistics. So that's what I had to say about the investment opportunity in the state of Florida. So if anyone would like to know more about it and also would like to connect with companies from Florida, we are organizing what we call the Florida Trade Expo. It's taking place between the 16th and the 18th of June. Of March. And we are welcoming you to attend that conference. And I think people from the chamber will send across some information about it after this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yassine. Thank you for that presentation there. And without further ado, we've only got 11 or so minutes of scheduled time left, but I'll hand straight over to Lewis, who is by no means is last, but by no means least. So over to you, Lewis. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you just confirm how many minutes I have, just to not run over?
Well, there's 11 left, but over to you. We'll see how we get on with questions.
All right, great.
All right.
I think not knowing exactly what the audience is, but we recently just opened up operations in Florida, coming from the UK. And I mean, one of the reasons was a little bit of Brexit cover, of course, but I would say also it was accelerated by the pandemic. One of the things I have to say about Florida, I went to university in Florida, so it's quite a familiar place for me. That's a bit unfair, but it is really an amazing, just to highlight what Yassine was saying, it's an amazing economy in its own right. And I think it is easy to forget what you think of Disney, you think of beaches, and you think of just the gateway to Latin America, but it is incredible to see the diversity of industries which are top 5, top 6 in the US, which reside in Florida. Certainly, I think that the branding is quite important when you go to Florida. It's easy to, especially if you have a name like mine, which is Spanish. I think you have to pick very well how you position yourself. If you're going to be a Latin American sort of hub type of company, if you're going to be a US from Florida type of company, you can be both. Just understand that the audiences that work with those two things are slightly different, right? Ease of doing business. I mean, the complexity around employment law, just taxes in general and regulations as a services business. So we are a technology company and we help with digital transformations, product market fit, and scaling of tech companies. But for us, in terms of bringing people on board, right, bringing people from California into Florida, it is really much simpler than in many other areas of the US. I think the other thing that is quite good about Florida, if you're coming from the UK, is that it is used to multiculturalism. And it is true that California and New York are also so, but they have the price that you pay for that. And that is in terms of financial investment required and the complexity. But if you compare to almost any place in the US, the balance between simplicity, ease of doing business, the openness of people to network you into their own networks, and the multicultural element, I think make it very interesting for British companies to consider. So, I mean, for us, it's been a delight, and with the help of the British Chamber and Yasin Enterprise Florida, I have noticed, I had forgotten, without any negatives towards the UK, but I had forgotten how open people are in Florida to doing business and to saying yes without a lot of suspicion, if that makes any sense. It's like, where are you coming from? No, it's quite an open environment, and it's a very positive environment, especially to gain new clients in a COVID climate. I've noticed quite a bit, and we all have noticed, it has become a lot more difficult to earn new clients, if you will, simply because of a lack of human contact and a little bit of hesitation in most businesses and consumers. I think even from a B2C viewpoint, people are going to their comfort zone a little bit, much less so in a Florida and a US market environment. It is less difficult to gain new clients, earn their trust, and have them be open to trying something new. That I can keep it to that. I just wanted to thank everyone that has helped and have really supported with networking and making contacts, which have really helped us win business very quickly since we've just arrived in Florida. So.
Thank you, Lewis, for graciously cutting things short for that to make up a bit of time. I suppose we've got a few minutes for questions. Something that struck me was something that Dan said at Curium, and he said he was never sure if there was a right time ever to do something and to focus on the risks. When you're taking a risk, focus on what you are going to lose as for what you might gain. And I remember there was something similar that we hosted Woody Johnson, the last US ambassador to the UK, and I asked him a similar question, and he was very much of the view, he just said, you should just do it, just get on and do things and make things happen. And I think things have been naturally more difficult in the COVID world, hasn't it? But it's good to hear some of these really great success stories and people still making things happen during this time. So we do still have 5 minutes. If people wanted to raise any questions, you can either do so on the by typing them in, or feel free to put your hand up and raise your question directly over the video.
Yeah, so James, there's a question that came in that directed to the BBC, which is an interesting one. So it comes from David Green, but he asked, as Miami is seen as the capital of Latin America, do a lot of BBC Miami's connections lead to business into all of Americas and and the Caribbean? That's an interesting question, because I think Yasin was talking about Florida, how it's growing, and it's true. We've seen even Elon Musk recently that's talked about building a tunnel, in Miami where the cars can actually charge, like on the, electric cars. We've seen companies like Microsoft, looking into Miami. It was in the news that Goldman Sachs is, potentially, transferring some of their operations to Florida, Blackstone, you name it. Like, a lot of the, largest companies, in the United States. But we've seen that too happen with, Latin America, businesses, because, Latin America, everybody knows, is a roller coaster, in terms of economy. We've been seeing countries like Brazil now, where, things are getting, complicated. So there is a growing rise of Latin America-based companies that have moved to Florida too, or have opened branches in Florida. So that creates the right environment, for the BBC and with our connections to also have those people as members, and also foster, that kind of interactivity, and business, right? So yes, so I think the answer is yes. We have seen interest from the Latin America community in the BBC and vice versa. And I do, our members do gain exposure and can potentially see business opportunities, because Miami is a true hub for Latin America, as it's becoming with other companies coming from across the US and also from Europe.
Thank you very much, Carlos. There's an email from Mark, and I think it may have been answered by Yassine. I just wanted to check, but Dan mentioned a soft landings program. Is this still available in Florida? And if so, can you please provide details? And I think Yassine said, yes, it is. Please email me at Yassine.
I can respond quickly if
yeah,
you'd
sure.
like. So just depending on the industry, on the type of activity, and on the region of interest, every area in the state has some sort of soft landing program, whether it is in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Naples. So just depending on your industry and what you are looking to achieve, is it more a kind of co-working space just to land and then grow? Is it more within an incubator? Is it related to life science, or even just research and development in general? So for every type of need you have, I would try to match you with the right type of soft landing program.
Thank you, Yassine. That's very helpful. Okay, we've got 2 minutes, probably chance for one last question if anyone wants to take the opportunity before we wrap up. Andrew?
I'd just
Andy?
like to let everybody know that Enterprise Florida will help anyone. If you have a small company, or like everybody's talking about, you want to open up another office, because it took a while to find a company that would help a real small business, and I find that very unusual.
I saw Andy's waving there. Go on quickly, Andy, before we finish off. Now's your chance.
A quick last point we should have covered is one of the challenges we've had in the UK supporting Dan is really, it took us a while to understand the markets over there. So anyone thinking of opening subsidiaries, you've got to invest the time in really understanding the market dynamics, because it is different when it comes to pricing and those kind of things. So that's an important point to bear in mind.
Okay, Andy. Right, I think that brings us to the end, everyone. I'd just like to thank Carlos and all of the speakers today. It's been a really useful event. And do feel free to contact us at the Transatlantic Chamber in the Midlands if we can help connect any of you. And we look forward to seeing you on another chat soon. So thank you very much for your time, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.